Have your Bibles with you. Turn to Psalm 5. Psalm 5. We've been talking about, been spending time this month on Sunday nights talking about prayer. In Psalm 5, a psalm written by David, it's a beautiful thought with regards to David's prayer, what he did and what he expected in verses 1 and 2. We're beginning in verse 1. David says, "Give ear to my words, O Lord. Consider my meditation. Give heed to the voice of my cry." David tells us really a lot about prayer and a lot about how we can use that avenue that is so wonderful that God has blessed us with. He first of all talks about what he did. David asked God, he says, "Give ear to my words." David tells us what he did. First of all, he used words. To convey our thoughts to God, one of the things that we can do, one of the ways, of course, we pray is we use our words. That's how we communicate. We use our words. And so David is asking God, he says, "Give ear to my words." But then he says, "Consider my meditation." That's the second thing that David did. He meditated. Meditation, we think of it from the standpoint of sitting and spending time, things going over in our head. So does that mean that we can have silent prayers? Well, I think to a certain degree, yes, and I believe silent prayers are fine. I'm sure you offer, I do, we probably all do, offer up silent prayers from time to time. The word meditation here, though, has the idea of small and what we would call maybe low mumblings and grumblings, utterances. And so what did he do? Well, first of all, he gave words. Second of all, he meditated. Thirdly, if you look at what he did, he says, "Give heed to the voice of my cry." He used his voice. And in using his voice, what did he do? He cried out. The word cry here is not the idea of sitting there and crying because of something that's going on, but it's the idea of crying out loudly, crying out for help. Imagine, if you will, that you're stuck in a hole somewhere and you can't get out yourself. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to sit there? Probably not. You're going to try to get out? Surely. But one of the things that you're going to do in trying to get out is to cry out for anybody that's available, anybody that's around that might hear you. So David says, with regards to his prayer life, that he cried out. He used his words, he meditated silently, but sometimes he cried out to God. Well, what did he expect? Well, go back to verse 1, and you see one of the things that he expected was for God to give his ear. The idea of the ear is the idea of broadening of the ear so as to hear. And so David, what did he expect? He expected God to listen, to give ear to what I'm saying. He expected not for it to fall on deaf ears, for it not to fall and simply be words put into space, or if it is a quiet meditation, for it to be from the standpoint of just what is called autosuggestion. In other words, I'm just suggesting to myself that God's going to take care of me and that my sins are going to be forgiven and God's going to help me with my burdens. And some folks think that that's all prayer is. It's just kind of a pep talk to myself. And David did not believe that. David believed that God was going to give ear. And then go back to verse 1 again. And he tells us a second thing that David expected. He said, consider my meditation. He figured that God would consider his meditation. The word consider there is the idea of separating me from everybody else. Consider me. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I hope that it's right. But one of the things I learned many years ago is that when people began to leave the church building, folks want to talk to the preacher. And that's fine and good. That's wonderful. I don't know of a preacher worth his salt that doesn't appreciate that and want to talk to everybody. But at the same point in time, too, this one is talking and this one wants to leave, but they want to say something to the preacher. I believe while it's important to speak to everybody, if this person is first and they're talking to me, that I owe them all of my attention. And then, once they're finished, I can go back to someone else, or I can go to someone else. And that's what David is asking. Lord, just consider me. Consider what I'm saying. But then thirdly, David expected, if you look at in verse 2, to give heed. God, give heed to what I've said. David expected Lord to incline himself so as to hear. You get a small child talking to you and you really want to show them that they've got your attention. What do? You don't lay back. You get down on their level and you talk to them. You incline yourself to them so that they can talk to you and feel comfortable talking to you. And David says, Lord, what I expect of you is for you to incline your ear to me so that you will hear me. It's a beautiful picture of prayer, isn't it? What is prayer? Prayer is our link to God. Prayer is our opportunity to carry our burdens, carry our needs, carry our thoughts, our hopes, our dreams to God. And in turn, God listens, hears, answers. And we're blessed. This evening, if you're not a New Testament child of God, the Bible tells us that we have this avenue of prayer, that a child of God can go and petition Him. It is our opportunity. And it is the effective, fervent prayer of the righteous that avails much. You can become one of those, righteous, if you will. If you've done that and you need to rededicate your life, our prayer is that you'll come while together we stand and sing.